Hello friends, another video from Drywall Repairman. On this channel we have mostly videos of drywall repairs such as patching, stress cracks, texture matching, small jobs, easy jobs, do-it-yourself type jobs. We are on the job working, so as I'm working I'm trying to make simple videos to show you guys how to do watch and learn type videos. So let's go ahead and jump into the video here and see what's involved. Also, at the end of the video, please subscribe, like, and comment, and jump in the other playlists and watch my other videos. Hey, thanks for watching this video.
So this is a water heater, water softener closet in a garage. Basically, the water softener sprung a leak, started misting water, spraying the walls. This didn't totally saturate the sheetrock. All it did was just spray the face of the sheetrock, so it just peeled and bubbled the paint and affected the tape seams. So it doesn't need no sheetrock pull out or cut out. It's not a terrible job, but we have to refinish it. We call this refinishing the sheetrock. So basically what we're going to do, all the loose stuff is you're going to scrape it all off. You're going to scrape off all the loose stuff, all the peeling areas, all the loose paper tape, original tape comes right out. So you got to scrape everything out. Then you're going to have to add screws. We always add screws to tighten it up. In this, I'm going to use a spray glue. Spray glue is an optional thing that I like to use. It's kind of like a sense of security when I use a spray glue. We spray it on. The fiberglass mesh tape likes to bond to it. Also, areas that are dusty, been water damage, flashed water damage like this has, it lets the mud bond to it. I'm not saturating the sheetrock with spray glue. I'm just doing a quick mist over. There's a lot of spray glues out there, different types. There used to be a sheetrock 3M spray glue used to put on corner beads, but I can't find it anymore. That's the go-to stuff. But any high quality name brand spray glue would work good. And this is just a trick of the trade that I do. I know there's other guys that do it, but it seems to work. In the ideal world, when you get something like this that's peeling, you'd like to paint over it with a sealer, like a Kills or a Bond sealer, something like that, but you have to let the sealer dry overnight before you turn around and mud. Sometimes when you skim over these water damaged areas like this or dusty areas, after you skim it out, you'll get blisters. Blisters are a common thing. You'll see in the video that I have to dig out a few blisters. Usually after you do your first coat of mud and it starts setting up, you'll get a blister here and there. That's just the normal part of skimming over old sheetrock, dusty sheetrock, water damaged sheetrock. That's just part of the job. So we like to just dig out these blisters as we see them. You try to catch them on first coat. You don't want to catch them after you texture, then it turns into a nightmare. So always try to catch them after first coat. Double check everything after second coat. Make sure you got no more blisters, and then you know you're ready for texture. Let's just go ahead. I'm going to walk through the videos, kind of just watch and learn. This is just finishing sheetrock. This was in a garage. Garages are 5/8 sheetrock, so it takes a lot of water. Gallons and gallons and gallons of water to soak into the sheetrock for it to actually ruin the sheetrock. If you just spray the sheetrock one time with water, this is what happens. It's just going to affect the paint and maybe the tape seams, and that's it. It's not going to do too much damage. You can just turn around and refinish it. You could have probably scraped the area and just painted over it, but you'd still see all the outlines of all the areas you scraped. So we're just going to go ahead and refinish this wall to just a common area like this. It's just refinishing. But go ahead and just watch this video. I'm going to talk along. We're just refinishing a drywall wall and a garage closet. Water softener. It's a common thing with water softeners. They spring a leak and they just start spraying water everywhere. Common things like this in houses, if you travel a lot, I always recommend trying to shut off your water or shut off water that isn't being used, because a common issue is this happening. And it always happens when you're out of town on vacation, or if it's an out-of-state home. Leaks happen and damages the wall. Good thing the homeowners were here when this happened, because they were able to catch it and turn it off just in time so it didn't do too much damage. If this would have leaked for days and days and weeks, it would have turned into a huge project, maybe a whole house flood out, big insurance project. But this is a small enough job where they can just hire a local drywaller to come in, work on it a few hours, and it'll be just as good as new. After we get all this stuff sprayed, mudded, and textured, you always want to let the texture dry for 24 hours. Whenever you get water damage stuff like this, I always recommend doing a primer sealer with a Kills 2 latex primer. It's always a good thing to always primer new drywall patches and stuff like this, but definitely you want to use a Kills 2 primer after the texture dries before you paint. Primer, then paint. Go ahead and just watch the video. We're going to add screws. We're going to just basically treat this like new sheetrock. We're going to tighten up the sheetrock, retape, recoat, skim out all the bad stuff, turn around and do a skip trowel texture. Very common texture in these type of jobs. In these homes, these newer homes that are 20, 30 years old, you skip trowels in this area. Maybe in your area they call it something else, but out here we call it a skip trowel. Maybe your house doesn't have a skip trowel. Maybe you have a smooth texture. It's the same process to get it ready for texture. If you want to just leave it smooth texture, just do a final skim coat with a regular joint compound and leave it smooth. So go ahead and watch the video. It's going to be a long video, so you can just watch parts of it and jump back into it when you got more time. But I'm just going to keep posting videos like this, working on the job, stuff like this that I do. My day-to-day routine. This is what I do. Drywall repairs. I make these videos so maybe you can see it and see what's involved. Some people think drywall is easy until they do it themselves. Maybe you'll see this video and say, hey, I can do that. Or maybe you'll see this video and say, I better hire a professional. When in doubt, always hire a professional. Go ahead and watch the video, and thank you for subscribing, liking, and also comment. Comment the videos, like them. It helps me get found on my new channel. So the likes, comments, sharing, watching other videos, time, it helps my channel grow. And the more my channel grows, the more time I can put into the channel and make better videos. Thank you.
What a beautiful morning. Beautiful desert, Fountain Hills, Arizona. Alright, let's get the rest of this touch-up stuff over there, just little holes. But yeah, you're gonna get blisters once in a while. You just dig out the blisters. You're gonna get them once in a while when you do these skim outs, but the wall's solid. We're finished getting this all first coated. Touch up those blister bubbles, then do a tight second coat on this, and then we'll do a second coat on this, then slick it all out, and then it'll be ready for texture. I'm using a 5-minute mud job like this. Probably should have brought some 20-minute, but oh well, we'll just mix little by little. And with the 5-minute, it's going to set up nice and strong, so it has its benefits to mixing more pans and have them set up, but it'd probably be easier just to mix just under half a bucket of 20-minute and just hit it all at once. It is what it is, but working around the water heater. What it was, their water softener started leaking. Sprayed water all over the sheetrock. It caused the paint to peel and the drywall seams. So you can get lucky with these and just skim them out. The garage is 5/8 sheetrock. It's a heavier duty sheetrock, so it takes a lot to really do some real water damage. That's just basically refinishing the sheetrock. Just doing a tight first coat, basically just filling in everything. I already sprayed that spray glue, so that helped eliminate those blisters like we got over there. You're always going to get blisters when you're skimming over old drywall with dust on it, water damage, stuff like that. You're always going to get a couple blisters here and there. This part, just reach up as far as you can. We got a little bit of mud here, so we're just going to fill in the joint here, the tape joint. Mud's setting up on me, so I'll try to use it all up so I don't have to scrape it out. You'll know when your mud's starting to set up because it'll get really thick and it's harder to work with. That's kind of your time frame to say, okay, I better use up what I have left, because you want to get your pan and knife and tools cleaned up before it fully dries, because this stuff is called quick set hot mud for a reason. It sets up chemically. Hot mud chemically sets up, then it sets up like a rock. That's good enough. I like to scrape away my pan, knife. Get all that loose stuff out. We're going to wash up our pan and knife. Just going to keep mixing pans and knives. Just mix it up. Just keep skimming everything out until it looks good enough to texture over. The texture here is just a skip trowel. between coats, just check everything. So we're working with a 5-minute. Just check everything as I go. Now in the ideal world, you just want to do a joint compound. You would do a first coat, but with a joint compound, you have to let them dry overnight, then come back, second coat, let that dry, come back. But we can't come to these jobs that are 40, 50 miles away from my location, 3-trip jobs. We couldn't make a living, so that's why we use these hot muds. But if you're doing a project on your own and you have nothing but time, always use joint compounds. They're easier to work with. These hot muds, they set up strong like a cement, and you have to work with them. Like what I'm doing now is called slicking out. I have many other videos that show this slick out technique. This is a technique done with hot muds. As they set up, not after they set up, you got to catch them as they're setting up. See, this is still kind of wet, but you're working with it. Almost like if you ever worked with a cement. You work with the cement, you catch cements as they're setting up to trowel down, smooth out, manipulate the material. Like a ceramic cement, same thing, you're just manipulating the mud. I'm pushing down on my knife, I'm taking the extra mud off, and then it's filling in and taking the extra mud off. So now this slick out technique almost turns it into a second coat technique. But yeah, we got some blisters there, big blisters, so I like to peel them out right away. If you peel them out before you slick out, the extra mud on your knife can turn around and fill them in. You're gonna get blisters. The only way not to get blisters, you would have to scrape the wall out and then do like a Kills primer sealer on all the bad drywall before you mud it. But that's something you can do if you're doing your own project. But on these projects, we can't come all the way out here to mud them with, paint them with Kills and then come back and mud them and then come back and coat them, and then come back and coat them again, and then come back and texture. That'd be a 5-trip job. When all said and done, I'd be working for $5 an hour if I'm lucky. So we just scrape these blisters. You're gonna get one here and there, and just fill them in. But yeah, just like that. Now, if this water heater leaked and it really got soaked, then you'd have to actually do cutout sheetrock and replacement. But the water softener was just spraying the wall, just causing these areas to peel away. If you did a joint compound technique, you would have just mudded all this and let it dry and then sand it out really good, and then turn around and do the second coat skim. So now it looks pretty good. You know, if I did a rough heavy texture, it might cover all this, but I'm gonna go ahead and touch up everything, make sure everything looks nice. My rule of thumb on my jobs is if it looks good enough, if I paint it right now, would it be perfectly smooth? Yes. Okay, it's ready for texture. If I paint it right now and it looks really rough and ugly, no, it's not ready for texture. So you almost want to treat this like you're doing a smooth wall before you do texture process. So let's go ahead and mix another partial pan. Since I've been slicking out this hot mud, I got dirty water here. If you use dirty water, your 5-minute or whatever quick set mud you have is going to set up quicker. So I'm just working with partial pans here. I'm in no hurry. This is the only job I have to do today, so we're just going to do partial pans. I can dump out my water
and get fresh water, but the hose is all the way on the other side of the house. So we're just going to mix partial pans here with using dirty water. Dirty water will make the mud set up quicker. That's why we like to use fresh water whenever possible. Something with the residue in the water, when you're slicking out, the residue gets in the water is dirty, and that helps activate and set the materials up faster. I don't know, it's just a chemical reaction to dirty water. But yeah, it's really nice over here. Dream home if you want a desert view. Since I'm doing a second coat tight skim out, I want it a little thinner than the first coat. We don't want it too heavy of a mud, because if it's too heavy it's going to drag. So these thinner mud like this, you're able to do a tight skim coat basically, and that's all it needs. Just touch it up. It's just a utility closet and a garage, so we're gonna get it pretty perfect, but it doesn't have to be level 5 smooth wall or nothing. The texture going on here is a skip trowel, so it will cover a lot of stuff. Just a nice tight second coat. You can even just coat all this, since it's all same thing here. I'm just gonna skim it all out. Tight skim out and just retexture the whole wall area. Do a little more work. It's done, all brand new. The homeowner gets what they paid for. And it blends in nicer when you just texture a whole wall area instead of having 100 little new texture patch spots everywhere. Just an angle here. You already went through that pan, it's already starting to set up, so that water is really dirty. I'm gonna get this a second coat because this was pretty deep over here. This is the inside of a door in a closet. No one's really gonna look in here, but we'll still make it presentable and nice. The whole idea with drywall repair is to make it, when it's finished, to look like there was never a repair done. That's the whole object of doing good work. Any trades like that, not just drywall. Skimming out is an option when the walls ain't this bad. It saves money. I would say it's almost the same amount of labor to skim it out and do all this mud work, but we're not cutting out sheetrock, we're not buying sheetrock, throwing away, hauling away sheetrock. You'll know when you need sheetrock replacement. It'll be in bad shape, falling apart. This was just the face, the finished face that was peeling. It wasn't the sheetrock was solid. I don't know if they're gonna put a new water softener again. If this was my house, I would cap those and get rid of it. just asking for trouble. Mud's setting up, same thing, just scrape your tools. Since the mud's setting up, I'm gonna check it with the sponge again after I clean my pan and knife, and I'm gonna go ahead and mix another one. I'll get the most out of this water, even though it's dirty. Just use it up and dump it. Since there's no hose, fresh water available, I have to go all the way behind the property to get it, so it's too much work for me to. You always want a nice wash up area if possible. A hose. Fresh water's ideal job, but if not, you're gonna have to do the water bucket technique like I'm doing here with the sponge. Clean up. The only problem with this is that now the water's dirty, and then you mix more. Or you can just have a separate bucket for washing up and another bucket for mixing. Check everything as it's drying. I like to catch this hot muds before it dries too much because it's easier to manipulate and slick out. Slicking out, it's almost like a perfect smooth area now because you're slicking out, that extra material's gliding over it. It's almost turning it into a fourth coat. So that's why we do this slick out technique. If your knife's dirty and stuff, you get scratches and stuff, go ahead and clean your knife. That's why I always keep a sponge with me to clean my knife as I go. Take the sponge, basically go over everything. When I go over everything with the sponge, it helps get the dust and everything off the wall. So when I do texture, the texture will bond better because there's no dust or nothing on the wall. See, like that, another blister. It's fine. I'm gonna just take that sponge, get that whatever's causing that blister, dust or something. So you just take your extra mud and it's almost fill it in. Then we could touch it up with the next pan of mud. But yeah, just clean it all up. Get your angle nice. I like to push the angle in nice and it almost fills it in. Almost a perfect angle. I see all that goober and I push it in with the hot mud. That's why I'm catching the mud before it dries, because I can manipulate it and it's perfect. It's nice. Same thing there. You can see how rough it is, and once I go over it with the sponge, go past our mud works, our texture will bond on the dusty old sheetrock. I have to get up there with the higher ladder. Detail work around pipes. You could even caulk these in later. That's why I taped that, so I can work water around it and everything. Ideal world, shut off the power, of course. But look, it's getting better. Probably mix another pan of mud, touch it up, finish that skim out, and then just texture the whole thing. Yeah, we're just gonna touch it up with regular mud. It's good enough for touch up. And clean up these hot muds. Always clean up your tools after you use them, because look, it's starting to cake in the tools. Drywall tools ain't really expensive, but they are nickel and dime items, and you don't want to have to buy new knives. They'll last a long time if you keep them clean. The only time I ever replace knives if they really get bent or if they rust out and break. Of course, newer knives these days are not made like they used to be, so the metal does bend easier, rust easier. In the old days, you'd have a knife that lasted 10, 20 years. Now it seems you replace these 6-inch knives at least once or twice a year. They start rusting up and stuff. You just sand them with like 150 grit. Some guys like to sand their knives first thing in the morning before they start mudding. Those are the disciplined drywallers. I like to sand mine with this square sanding block. That's why I keep one in the water bucket to get the stubborn mud off of it. But yeah, the mud starts caking inside these pans. New pan, this is a bigger pan, this ain't the little pan. So a pan like this would cost 20, 25 bucks, 10 bucks, 10 bucks. So you got 40 or 50 dollars just for basic knives that you need to do a basic job. Hot mud, this is the hot mud I like to use, this brand. Other brands are just as good, but this stuff works good. I like to keep it in a bucket like this. A 5-gallon bucket will hold about 2 bags, 2.5 bags. I always like to keep it in the bucket because I can put a lid on it and it won't get wet and ruined. Some guys like to work out of the bag. It's fine, whatever technique works easiest for you. If you're able to get this stuff, this is what I use. This is what's in my area. I've been working with this stuff for decades. It's the best of the best. Other stuffs I use that I get at the big box stores, that stuff is good, but when it sets up like a rock. So that's why I like to work with this, because it gives you a little more work time. Even though it says 5 minutes, you got 5 to 10 minutes until it really sets up. Dirty water, it's going to set up right at 4 to 5 minutes. But yeah, that's why I keep it in the bucket. Fresh bag for the next job. Trash, I just throw it in here. I'm gonna touch it up. I got the regular, like in the other videos, capped joint compounds. This is ready for texture, but I'm gonna also, the mud's thick enough where I can touch up the bad stuff with this. It's hot day out today, sun's out, 100-degree day in September, so it's no problem to use this touch up. But first, let's go ahead and check our hot muds. Clean 6, damp sponge, just double check any areas. Sometimes you come back, you might find another blister, so that's why we double check everything. But yeah, it's almost a shame to do all this work making it perfectly smooth and have to turn around and texture it. Let's say you were doing this job yourself. You're not comfortable trying to texture match, but hey, you can get it smooth and ready, and at least it's sealed up and presentable. The texture is just a cosmetic finish, and depending on your area, you might have a smooth finish anyways. So smooth finish, you would just follow this through with another tight skim coated joint compound and be perfect. A lot of guys try to do patches where they patch it and paint it all in one trip. Well, they're using hot muds to texture with. I don't recommend ever using hot muds. I always use a joint compound for my textures, and joint compounds have to dry overnight. Joint compounds are creamier materials, better finish. These hot muds, even though they look nice and smooth, they're more gritty and coarse because it's a quick set material. But just double check your work. Everything looks nice, nice, nice. Always double check your work area before texture. Everything's sponged off. No surprise blisters to see. Couple rough spots, but you can touch those up with regular mud before you paint. or not before you paint, I'm sorry, before you texture. But yeah, it's nice and dry. This is a little work area I'm doing over here. Is just touch up from a cracked corner bead. Same thing there. We're just gonna slick it all out. This is two coated. This is one of the jobs where we're working on that, and the homeowner says, "Hey, I got another spot over here." Okay. Yeah, but pretty much. Now skip trowels, since it's patchwork, I'm just using a 6-inch knife, but I want to make sure this knife's clean, clean, clean. No goobers. I don't want to pull scratches. You could use a bigger knife, but the smaller knives you can get perfect skip trowel, get in the detailed area. Joint compounds, mud consistency. I would say like a heavy pancake batter. That's pretty much most joint compound textures. Is a heavy pancake batter consistency. Creamy. You can't have clumps in here and goobers. You have to have clean mud. If you get goobers and stuff in your mud, you're going to pull scratches. Once you get goobers, you're going to have to strain your mud or get a new box of mud. But a skip trowel just goes up and down, nothing big. Mix it up. Just start on the existing skip, get my pattern going. Where you're located, you might not have a skip trowel. If you have a texture like this, they might not even call it a skip trowel. But here we call it a skip trowel. Common texture in newer homes. It's done by hand instead of spray rig. Nothing to it. That's why you use a 6-inch knife, especially if you're just starting. 6-inch knives are better on stuff that isn't perfectly straight. I like to do a full-size area as far as I can reach. Then you're always going to have to trowel down. If you didn't trowel down your thing, it'd be really rough. So I like to trowel down. Look at how I'm on the knife. I'm not standing up, not pushing it. I'm just gliding over it. It's kind of like knocking down, troweling down the skip trowel. And of course, before they paint, they have to lightly sand it if you want a perfect skip trowel, smooth skip trowel. Just keep plugging away. I'm gonna have to texture this whole dang thing. Pushing down on the knife is just gliding over it. I'm not even holding the knife. I'm not holding it, gripping it. I'm just gliding the knife, skipping across the repair. If you want to try to practice skip trowel, just try on a new sheet of sheetrock until you get the desired design you're going for. Sometimes you have to thin your mud down, or if it's too thin, you won't get a good skip trowel. Kind of like a Goldilocks mud. It has to be just thin enough and just thick enough to do a good skip trowel. Practice makes perfect. I mean, there's no correct formula or ratio of mixing water. So you can figure out your technique. slowly get inside the angle because you don't want to mess up a nice 90-degree angle. So just getting enough mud in the area. So yeah, just trowel down. You can go either way. Trowel down doesn't matter. I'm not pushing down hard. If I push down hard, you're going to flatten this skip trowel, and then you're going to turn it into a smooth, same fade skip. These angles, like I said, I like to pull away and then follow that way. Follow through up and down. These joint compounds, they have to let them dry overnight. And you just lightly sand them with like 150 grit. Primer, then always a primer needs to dry up. It'll seal up the wall, protect the wall, seals up all the mud work that we did. It just makes a perfect job. Perfect job on these primers. Some guys like to scoop, some guys like to dip. You just got to find your technique that works for you. Tight areas like this, just the best you can. Pull away, pull from the angle. And then I always like to feather out the texture past the mud work. Blends in, feathers out to the existing, makes the best finish. Detail work, and just go around the detail as best as you can. You make a mistake, just trowel it away. Put it on too heavy and start over. Lighter. Don't push down, just let the knife glide over it. Sometimes you just put mud on the corner of the knife just to get into these tight spots and trowel it down. You're not going to get perfect around detail areas. If you want perfect walls, you got to have a flat, perfect wall with no obstructions when you do skip. No water heaters in the way, water lines, stuff like that. So around detail, textured areas, do as best as you can. Tight areas behind water heaters, stuff like this, all we can do as best as we can. I already let the homeowner know. Unless you pull the water heater, we do as best as we can behind the water heater, a little area like that. I'm just going to put a little bit of mud on it. That's all we can do there. Oh. I'm getting kind of thin on mud. I like to keep a half a pan of mud or so for skip trowel. I don't like to scrape bottoms of pans for texture. I like fresh, nice mud. Plugging away, it's taking a little time with the little knife, but it is what it is. A little tight area in here. I guess this is a central vacuum system. Just do as best you can. Mind you, I'm 200 pounds trying to squeeze in this area. In a garage, no AC, sweating. So we do as best as we can around this area and get the job completed before we have a heat stroke working in a garage in September in the heat. Like I said, if you flatten it too much, that looks ugly. You just scrape it away. Start over. lightly. Look at the knife. I'm not even pushing on the knife really. I'm just holding the knife barely. Look, barely. Look, the knife, I'm not even pushing down on the knife. I'm just letting it skip barely. So you'll have to practice your technique until you can get down your skip troweling technique. Any light areas, you can just go ahead and put a little bit of texture, no big deal. Trowel it down. It's not perfect. Look at the original. Looks like they just smeared it, kind of like what I'm doing here. More detail work around pipes. But she's starting to come together. Up here I'll have to get a bigger ladder. Plenty of ladders here. So. Then mud, and you get mud on the water heater and stuff like that. Always at the end of the job I wipe everything down with a damp, clean rag. Don't use the bucket sponge because I'll leave a white residue after the water dries. So always use a clean rag to wipe everything down. There's no way of keeping everything clean, perfect. You're working with muds, you're working with waters. It's just part of the process, is clean up at the very end. Light spots. Trowel down. Around these detail work, sometimes you can do really detailed around your plugs. Trowel it down. Remember how I put the tape here? Not only did we not get mud in there, we didn't get electrocuted and stuff like that, so it's nice. You want the flange to sit on it nice. The face plate behind the water heater. Let's go. All right. Starting to get exhausting hot in here. Yeah. Now around all this goofiness. Oh, I remember this area. I'm gonna have to get more mud soon. Just a little more. Alright, we're moving along. Slow and steady. Slow and steady. Too heavy? No problem. Little touch-up areas there. Smear a little mud on it. Yeah, working around all this stuff is fun. Double check everything, make sure you want far down on the base. Baseboard covers, but I don't know if they're gonna put new baseboard or not. So we just like to finish down all the way, just in case. No baseboard. Set around on detail work. If you want to really get detailed, just a little bit on the corner of your knife around the pipes. I recommend just caulking around these pipes. The caulking will give it some flexibility. Yeah, just gotta reach there and finish up over there. I reach up here as much as I can, but I can only get so far without them moving the water heater. Alright, I think that's good enough for that. Double check your angles. Everything's troweled down. You can take it up further to blend it in existing. I clean it all up. Make sure I got everything. Closer to detail. I like to pull out my plastics, so just in case the plastic's in the way like it was here. See it down here. They'll have to put baseboard here, there's just no way. Yeah, pretty much it. Let's clean it up. Let's get this area all textured out. This is just a corner bead, got hit, so it broke the corner bead, so we retaped it. Recoated. Sometimes you get goobers in your mud. You gotta get those goobers out so they'll pull the scratches. Then your mud starts getting dirty and nasty. If it really gets dirty, the mud in your pan starts drying and I have to clean the pan to get fresh texture. So I'm almost done here. So I'm gonna try to finish up. Problem with working in hot summer garages, the mud sets up a little faster. Jobs get uncomfortable, hot, hardness. Same thing. Double check everything, fade it out. Go a little higher, go a little wider. Go higher, go wider. Helps fade it out, blend it in nicely. Usually I'd save my mud, but this mud is dirty. Got little dingleberries in it and everything else. So I don't want to put that stuff in my good mud. Dump it out, wash it up. Now we clean up. All your plastics, sweep up, wipe everything down, as good as new. Clean my 6. They're joint compounds. Cap them off. Good for tomorrow. I have another box, but we have enough mud in there to do one more small job. Clean my tools best possible. There's no hose here, so next time I'm around a hose, I'm gonna have to do a thorough washing on these tools. You just want to get most of the mud off if you don't have a wash source. Next time you're around a hose with the spray nozzle, you can really clean up your tools, dump your muds. Yeah, it's beautiful desert, but it gets hot quick. Like I said, a rag will get this wet. Wipe everything down after I get everything swept up. Some people just leave it and come back the next day, but it's always easier to clean up as the muds are still wet. Before they fully dry, then they don't wipe off as easy when the muds are still wet and fresh. So we always clean up when we're done. A lot of people say, hey, can you leave the plastic down? Because I'm just going to paint anyways. I tell them no, we'd like to pull the masking off and get all that wet drywall mud and plastic out of there. It's easier to do fresh plastic for your next painting process. Unless you do like a perfect masking job, you're always going to have mud. I think this was a hot water, whatever that does. This was on here, so I'll just put it back. It doesn't need it. Anything extra, I just put everything back because most homeowners are handy enough to put them back, but most aren't. So I just put everything I took off the walls back in place. That way it doesn't get lost. Plus it's done. I didn't unplug this, but I'm just going to leave it here just in case the homeowner does want to plug it in. They'll have to reset their timing. But just go ahead, clean it up. Cleaned it up. Big old mess. Now if we were working on carpet, you'd have to spend extra time, or wood floors. But this is just a garage done with the hand texture, so I'm just gonna sweep up everything and clean up. It's a big mess, these jobs. You see that was earlier this morning, it was just little area, but look, we ended up refinishing, texturing the whole wall. So now they're gonna have to turn around and paint that entire room, at least that entire wall, primer it, paint, and then it'll be good to go. As long as it doesn't get water damage again, they'll be in good shape. Now if it gets water damage again after this, they're gonna have to cut out some sheetrock. Alright, let's get some fresh water and wipe it. Well, yeah, just wipe everything down. That's all you can do. Nice clean rag. I think they'll have to put baseboard down. That looks good now. He's a dog really wants part of me. Good enough. Thumb of approval.